guys that did it, and some of the local cops. And this occurred 12 years after Lord Scarman had reported on the Brixton riots, saying that there had been racist officers behaving badly in Brixton and so on. What was seen by the Lawrence affair was that nothing had substantially changed, that nothing was substantially different to what had taken place before. And therefore, when the report came out into Lawrence, it was noted that that the police were, I think this caused quite a stir, an institutionally racist organisation. And there was, you know, rows about this for long after, that this terrible branding had stopped the police from doing their job, and now they couldn't arrest black criminals and so on and so forth. All nonsense, of course, but it was a devastating indictment of the police. And as a result, you got what was meant to be the big clear-up. The big clean-up. We would, from now on, have life on Earth policing, the life on Mars policing, belonging back to the days of the idiots, the thugs, and the morons, etc., etc. And yet, behind all the sophistication, and behind all the very persuasive and well-educated people who appear on the television, these suave officers and so on, you have in the last 4 years witnessed events every bit as bad as the events that I've been describing. The death of John Charles de Menezes, the series of violent attacks on demonstrations which ended with the death of Ian Tomlinson. The anti-terror raids that have taken place in different parts of the country, again and again, huge high-profile raids which have resulted in very few convictions standing up. Recently, the reports of waterboarding, you know, hey, we've learned something from Guantanamo, that's useful, we'll waterboard suspects allegedly involved in drug crimes. Even within the police, you find a series of black policemen still complaining about the racism, the inherent racism and the institutional racism of the institution that's meant to have been cleared up and so on. And when you look back at those events, I mean, it seems incredible now. You think of the murder of John Charles de Menezes and the way it was portrayed at the time. I mean, the truth of the matter is, the first thing that has to be said about it was incompetence of the worst sort. I mean, they actually had a genuine suspect in the house and left him and followed somebody who had nothing to do with it. That, by any standards, is pretty incompetent at a point where the whole city is somewhat nervous. I know, we'll follow the wrong bloke. You know, it's not marvellous. But once having done that, to then make a series of decisions which resulted in him being shot down in cold blood, and as if that wasn't bad enough, and it's hard to believe, you know, that it could get worse. You've done this terrible thing to this man. You've broken the hearts of his family. Can it really get any worse? Well, I think we can come up with a way of actually compounding this. Let's tell lies. See how that helps the family to deal with this situation. So let's first of all say he was a known terrorist. This man, known terrorist, well known. We've been we've been carrying out a surveillance operation on him for some time. We know him. He's a terrorist. Oh no, sorry, he's not a terrorist. He's not actually Muslim. He's from Brazil. He's got no connection whatsoever with any of the events that have taken place. But you see, what could we do? He was wearing all this bulky clothes under which he was it looked like he was hiding bombs. Actually, sorry, did we say bulky clothes? We meant t-shirt. Yeah, no, sorry, we got that one slightly wrong. It was a t-shirt. But they can look very suspicious t-shirts, you know, as things go. He failed to stop when ordered to by police. But what were we meant to do? He might have had a bomb under his t-shirt, this Brazilian. Oh no, sorry, he didn't stop, because we never ordered him to stop. We just shot him in the head. Incredible to think that having done this, you would then turn around, Mr. New Sophisticated Policeman, highly educated, life on earth copper, will turn around and tell a series of lies about this. And if you just wanted to add insult to injury, apart from the fact that they got away with it, and apart from the fact that Blair, you know, he went eventually, but he didn't go over that, and he bloody well should have done, and apart from the fact that they really had nothing to offer that family, to add the final nail in his coffin this week, this bloody week. If anybody who read the second report known as Stockwell 2, the second internal inquiry, it criticised quite severely the police command structure. Yeah. The person who in charge of the operation was an officer called Cressida Dick.
Yes.
This week, mind you, Cressida Dick was made head of the Metropolitan Specialist Crime Squad with a salary of £172,000 a year. And you can't help thinking, what the hell would they have paid her if she'd done the job well? I mean, this is a woman who absolutely fucked up every aspect of this operation. You know, you talk about MPs' expenses. You pay somebody 172 grand a year for having killed somebody in cold blood, for having masterminded a completely incompetent operation. The gall is amazing. I mean, actually, I say that was the last. No, there was another one that just caught my ear and interested me. I don't know if people remember, just days after the killing, there was a raid in Birmingham. And the cops in Birmingham used tasers. Now we can all discuss, you know, the rights and wrongs of tasers. But one man, it seems to me, who had no right to comment whatsoever on the use of tasers in Birmingham at that point was Sir Ian Blair. But Sir Ian Blair came out immediately after and said that the use of tasers was irresponsible as it had, and I quote, put lives at risk. This was a man who just shot somebody in cold blood, thinking he can tell another police force that really you should go around with loaded guns because they're much safer. I mean, you know, it's just absolutely amazing. We then saw raids throughout the country. There were 250 cops in Forest Gate in East London who shot a man. He didn't die, just by good fortune. Nobody charged. A series of raids up and down the country, most of them ended with nobody being charged. What did they succeed in doing, however? Those raids succeeded in both stigmatising and alienating the Muslim communities in Britain. That's what they did. This was this marvellous, modern, new policing that we come to expect. Meanwhile, the policing of demos was growing more hostile and more dangerous. Everybody was saying this, you know, there had been a period after Lawrence where there appeared to be a softly approach. Interestingly enough, when, you know, 2 million of us marched against the war, the cops kept a pretty low profile. But suddenly they began to be getting more and more aggressive and hostile. And it was clear before the G20 protests that they were truncheon happy. I mean, who was the Met commander of that operation? God knows where he'll end up. You know, he'll probably end up Prime Minister, I have no idea. Simon O'Brien said, before the demo, we're up to it and we're up for it. You know, the language of anybody who's ready for a fight, basically. I'm up for it. And up for it they were. The Territorial Support Group, it was so good they disbanded the SPG and then renamed it. They didn't even manage to get rid of all the bloody initials. They still left a G in it and a P in it. You would think they would have tried to have done better. But the Territorial Support Group operated a series of tactics, including the kettling, which were specifically designed to cause a maximum confrontation, the maximum agitation, the maximum discomfort, and indeed, and they cared not less about this, the maximum danger to those involved in it. And then, of course, what did it result in? It resulted in the killing of Ian Tomlinson. And not just the killing of Ian Tomlinson. I mean, you know, I want to come on to the one rotten apple theory, but anyone who saw the pictures that followed, there was Nicola Fisher. There were a whole series of these pictures of policemen just running after people and hitting them merrily with sticks, as if this was somehow their job. And one of the things that did amuse me, you know, Britain has become one of the most well, I think the most surveillance-crazy society in the world. We have more cameras per head of the population, and I'm not now talking about we've all got one on our mobile. I mean, we have more official cameras per head of the population than anywhere else in the world. And they have used that repeatedly against demonstrations, picketers, protesters, etc. I suppose the one satisfaction of the G20 demos was that, yes, if you've got cameras, so have we. And it began to come to the point where they couldn't do what they did with Blair Peach. Although God knows they did try. They tried, first of all, you know, to portray Ian Tomlinson as some mad anarchist, as if that was a good enough reason to kill someone. As it turns out, Ian Tomlinson was nothing of the sort, but a person trying to make his way through the crowd. He wasn't even on the protest. Again, they lied. I mean, the first version I heard was he'd had a heart attack, and because of the bloody anarchists and the violent crowd, the poor police who were doing everything they could to save